Imagine not being able to read the paper because your hands were shaking. Imagine not being able to read newsprint as your world faded to black. The National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana. With your host, Lee Martin, and co-host, Florence Myers-McSwine.
We want to welcome you to the National Federation of the Blind Newsline Indiana show. We want to thank you for returning to our shows, and those that are first-time viewers and listeners, we trust that you will enjoy our show and the information that we share with you. This information is very pertinent to those that are blind, visually impaired, or coping with visual loss, or those with certain forms of dyslexia, as well as those that are blind and deaf. That community now can access this service, and also those that have like shaking hand syndromes and can't turn pages of newspapers and magazines. This audio information service is a free service, and we'll explain a little bit more about that to you as we progress through the show. And we will invite you to listen to the commercials. You'll get a lot of information there on how to contact us to access this great free program. You can utilize your landline phone, your smartphones. We have an app with the iPhone. Also, the digital talking player from the Library of Congress, which you can receive at the Talking Book and Braille Library services throughout the state of Indiana. And we also have a new device. Florence, you want to tell us about the new device?
Well, the newest device that we've added is the Amazon Alexa. So we can now access NFB Newsline that way.
And it has a lot of skills there that you get a lot of good information where you can just tell Alexa to read the Indianapolis Star, read the Wall Street Journal, and so forth. So the NFB Newsline service allows you to read over 500 publications, international newspapers, breaking news newspapers, and a plethora of newspapers throughout the country and within the state of Indiana. So we'll be back with our guest, which you want to hear from today, a very important person in the state of Indiana, and we'll be right back with her. Stay tuned.
Thousands of Indiana residents feel isolated from the world due to vision problems. Thanks to the National Federation of the Blind, visually impaired Hoosiers can hear newspapers, circulars, and magazines from across the globe.
I'm a Vietnam veteran. I'm blind. I read Stars and Stripes on NFB Newsline.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
Subscribe free to NFB Newsline.
If you or someone you know is visually impaired or print challenged, the National Federation of the Blind has a resource you need.
Wow, I scored a touchdown when I found sports on NFB Newsline.
I enjoy reading TV guide listings on NFB Newsline.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
We are the nation's blind. We read NFB Newsline.
It's free.
Welcome to this week's National Federation of the Blind Newsline Indiana show. We have our special guest here today, Representative Cherish Pryor from House District 94. And Representative Pryor, thank you and welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm very glad to be here.
I know you have to be exhausted. You guys just finished a session.
Yes, we did. We finished about a week and a half ago. So I am very happy that we're done. We started in January and ended on April 24th or 25th, I think it was. So this was a long session, and generally in long sessions, well, actually always in long sessions, is a year in which we pass the state budget for the state of Indiana. So this was a longer session for us because we had to do that constitutional requirement every 2 years.
Well, I know we here at the National Federation of the Blind Newsline, Indiana, always appreciate your assistance in providing service that's very valuable to hundreds and hundreds of individuals throughout the state of Indiana. And we use this show as a catalyst to get the information out. And we just want to thank you and the powers that be at the State House to allow this service to continue to get the information out to our consumers.
Well, I really appreciate that, but I think, that we have obligation as legislators to ensure that we're inclusive particularly in our budget, and making sure that needs for every segment of populations in the state are taken care of. So I've always looked forward to, I know I'll see you at least every 2 years, both of you, coming in to make sure that we're providing money in the budget for your organization. So, that is something that is very important to me, and I will continue to fight to make sure that we have money. And it also is good to come so we can see where the money is being used. So when I continue to try to advocate for additional funding, I can tell people what it's going to be used for as well.
Well, I'm glad that you work with us on that, and I'd be kind of remiss today if I didn't mention Mr. Bill Crawford and his initial interest in sharing that with you all.
Yeah, he was very passionate as well about making sure that you were funded as well. So, and he was a mentor of mine, so I miss him dearly. So hopefully he's happy knowing that we're continuing on with that legacy of taking care of your organization.
And we certainly appreciate your support. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now, speaking on what's the happenings at the Indiana State House this past session, let's talk about some of the issues that you on the Democrat side really were pushing for when we're talking about the rights of individuals, the hate crime bill. And that was inclusive of people with disabilities as well. So give us your perspective on that and why it was pushed.
Indiana was one of 5 states, and in my opinion, is still one of 5 states that does not have a really inclusive list of hate crimes legislation. We did pass something in the legislature this year, but it did leave out several categories. One category, which was age, and I think also disabilities was not in there as well, and protected categories. And the other category that was not in there was gender identity also. So even though we have something, it certainly is not inclusive of all segments of the community, and that was my concern. The Black Caucus and Representative Porter, as well as Senator Greg Taylor, have been pushing for hate crimes legislation for years. The Black Caucus has always been on the forefront of that issue, and it's taken a long time. It took a long time for us to get to this point, and we got very, very close several years ago, getting everything, making sure that legislation was inclusive of everybody. And this year, we didn't go far enough. We didn't take care of everybody, and that is a disappointment that I have with the hate crimes legislation that was passed this year. So hopefully, in future years, the legislature, we can come back and make sure that we're including everyone.
Okay. Now, I'm happy to say that I am on your constituents. I'm in your district. Yes. And I want to know for District 94, what do you see happening this year, or do you foresee anything particular?
Yeah, so I think District 94 is a wonderful district, but I'm sure every legislator will say that about their district. But I think the one thing that we have in our district is the wealth of diversity, the number of languages that are spoken in our schools. If you want to go to an ethnic restaurant in District 94, you'll find it over in my area. So I think we're going to try to continue to get more economic development projects there. And also we have some challenges over on the northwest side of Indianapolis as well. But I think the fact that we have organizations that have come together to try to make sure that we're continuing to get improvements in the community is going to serve us well. We have the Lafayette Square area, or International Marketplace now. We renamed the Lafayette Square area International Marketplace. And so that organization has really taken the lead on getting businesses, as well as we have some apartment complexes that are going to be coming online. This year, next year, we have millions of dollars in investments that are going to be over in the Lafayette Square area. Also, so we have a lot that's going on, and so I really see nothing but positivity coming out of the area, and I'm very excited about that.
And so am I.
I know that's a very, it's a busy area over there, and a lot of businesses have, left, and then we've had new businesses come in to reflourish everything. Now, with persons with disabilities, we often have problems with transportation. And I know that here in Indianapolis, we're installing the Red Line and several other lines around the state, and around the city, excuse me. And how does that impact your district?
Unfortunately, the Red Line does not come through my area. And the one concern that I do have with the Red Line, the Blue Line, and I think there's pretty much every color there is, that is going to be a part of that is I don't see that it is really inclusive of the northwest side of Indianapolis. And that's very unfortunate. You get to 38th Street, that is really busy there. However, once you start going north of 38th Street, it's not much transportation services as readily available as other parts of the community. So I do think from a local standpoint that the local officials, we're really going to have to take a better look at making sure that public transportation is not only available, but available on a more regular basis, so people don't have to wait 20 or 30 minutes, or if you miss, you miss a bus, you miss your appointment because another bus may not come for 15, 20, or 30 minutes. So there's certainly a great need for improvement of mass transportation over on the northwest side of Indianapolis. And that includes, buses as well. Some communities, you have to walk pretty far to even get to a bus stop. And then even making sure that we have bus shelters or shelters at all of the bus stops to protect people during the times that we have bad weather.
Well, we're going to take us a short break and come back and talk about transportation and several other issues while we have the Representative Cherish Pryor with us. So stay tuned.
I am a blind vendor, and one of the things that I truly miss is reading Vending Times magazine.
Hoosiers can hear Indiana magazines, circulars, national magazines, and information from across the globe. Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
It is a fantastic service.
Subscribe free to NFB Newsline today.
I'm Danny Wayne Beamer, Program Manager of the Elder Blind Program at the Will Center in Terre Haute, Indiana. I introduced the NFB Newsline to seniors in 13 southwestern counties in Indiana. I also utilize the NFB Newsline for my radio station public affairs shows. The NFB Newsline. Experience it today.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
We are the nation's blind, and we read NFB Newsline.
Welcome back to this week's National Federation of the Blind Newsline with our guest, Representative Pryor. And Representative, we were talking a little bit about transportation here in the city of Indianapolis for people that are disabled. And it just sounds like it is what it is right now concerning transportation for us with disabilities. But what I would like to talk to you about is employment for persons with disabilities and your stance on it.
Okay. So let me just encourage people, back to transportation really quickly, encourage that if people have concerns, to make sure that they call their city county counselor. I think that it's really important. If you want a bus stop, to call your counselor. If you want sidewalks, those things are important to make sure that they get in contact with their local counselor to try to advocate for those. Employment, I think, anybody that wants to work and have a job should have the opportunity, and I certainly think that businesses should make an effort to employ people who have disabilities as well. We shouldn't limit a person based on their abilities and say that they're not capable of doing the work. If a person wants to work and provide for their family, they should be given the opportunities, and businesses and government or whomever need to make accommodations for people so that they can provide for themselves. So I think it's a great thing that people are wanting to work, and we should not deny that access.
With that, I said in the disabled community, there's it's stated that there's 70%, and that may be maybe a little bit higher in certain ethnicities within the disabled community. Right now, we have a Disability Employment Act in front of Congress with the National Federation of the Blind. And there was a well-intended program years ago, 1938, matter of fact, the Wagner-O'Day Act, which still is prevalent today from 1938. And it's a very inadequate law from that time span, from then to now. And we're working to bring about more awareness, because this particular act, although once again it was well intended at that time for disabled employees or people that are seeking employment with disabilities to get the proper training and get the tools that they need. And we're wanting to make those changes to bring it up to date and with the different technologies that we have today. And to prepare individuals for the challenges that we face in the 20th century. So I know that you guys are really wanting to work making sure that people with disabilities are treated fairly when you come to jobs, because there's a lot of misperceptions.
Yeah, it is, and I think we have to make sure that people don't have stereotypes, and I think that's why it's so important for businesses to have a good understanding and be open to hiring people who have disabilities, because people bring a whole different perspective and skill sets, and open up people's minds. Because people can do the work, you know. It's just given the opportunities.
Given the
It's
opportunities,
just given the
you know.
opportunities. You know, I can't guarantee a person a job, but if you put a person in front of you, you know, then they can sell themselves.
Yeah, well, we
and that's
hope that
what
they
people-
can,
yeah.
Representative, because employers still have that loophole through the Fair Wages Labor Act of which 14C, as it's called, a certificate that allows employers to continue to pay people with disabilities far less than minimum wage. And in some instances that individuals are making 50 cents an hour. And so we feel that is very tragic and needs to be really addressed, and we've been fighting for that for quite some time as our advocates with the National Federation of the Blind and American Council and other disabled groups out there.
Yeah. And those the inadequate and unequal pay is certainly something to be concerned about. You know, equal pay has been something that I've advocated for and will continue to advocate for. People, if you're doing the job as your person sitting next to you, you shouldn't be getting paid less simply because you have a disability or any other reason. And you know that's certainly that's absolutely a problem. You know,
It is a problem.
because how are you going to take care of your family on half the salary? You know, or yourself. You know, that's a problem.
And it basically boils down to some of the basics, you know, even with the education of people with disabilities. And we'll talk about those, particularly in blindness, the education and affording some of the technology. Florence, you want to talk about that, ATA?
Sure. Now, ATA, now that's Access
Technology Affordability Act.
Technology Affordability Act. Now, that is one where we are trying to get a tax credit that will enable us to purchase equipment, because our equipment is pretty expensive, ranging from $500 to $2,000 or more. And that's basically so that we can do our work, do the things that basically to maintain. And that is, you know, due to, as Lee mentioned, disabled community, the blind community being 70% unemployed. To me, that is something that we would really need.
Yeah, I think that would certainly be a big help, and something that as a state we can certainly consider and look at as well. You know, even maybe next session having a bill or amendment that would allow for that credit, and see, you know, how we can get something done. I know we're consistently giving credits and breaks to businesses, but I think providing money to an individual, it goes right back into the economy in other ways, and it certainly is something that will benefit that individual as well as the community as well.
Yeah,
to make sure that, you know, people are getting a credit, or, you know, however will be the best way for the state to set something up so that, you know, people with disabilities are not paying more for the equipment that they need, the equipment that they need for basic necessities that we take advantage of because we don't have those, you know, those challenges.
And also, before we wrap up here in this particular segment, you know, challenges with vocational rehabilitation services that we feel need to be addressed. There's also challenges with the Randolph-Shepard Act for those merchants that are blind vendors that have, they're being challenged right now in Congress and throughout the state of Indiana. We have Congressman Banks that has introduced legislation to help take away the blinded vendors' rights throughout the state. And that would cause individuals to lose a lot of jobs that they have had the rights to in the past. So we're going to take a short break and come right back with the conclusion of our show with Representative Cherish Pryor. So stay tuned.
The National Federation of the Blind knows that blindness is not the characteristic that defines you or your future. Every day we raise the expectations of blind people because low expectations create obstacles between blind people and our dreams. You can live the life you want. Blindness is not what holds you back.
We're at the conclusion of our show with Representative Cherish Pryor, and we have several important questions for her, and we'll get them across real fast.
Okay, Representative Pryor, we spoke of some tax credits, and what other tax credits are available?
So the one thing I do want people to be aware of is the homestead deduction, which is available. We have a blind and disabled homestead deduction that people can receive if they qualify. Just go to the Marion County Auditor's Office, pick up an application, turn in then the required paperwork, and people can receive a deduction on their property taxes. And it can be pretty significant for an individual that may be having a difficult time paying their property taxes. It's available. There are other deductions that are available for people as well. The homestead deduction, the mortgage deduction. If you're a veteran, there are veterans deductions as well. But I think it's really important as people are seeing their home prices increase, assessed value. If there are ways in which people can save a little money on those property taxes, they take advantage of it. And I'm glad that we have a deduction for people who are blind and disabled to take advantage of, so can help them stay in their homes.
Well, we want to say thank you so very much for that great information. Please take advantage of it, and please join us again next week on the National Federation of the Blind Newsline Indiana show. Take good care.
The National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana. For more information, go to nfb-in.org or call 855-963-6476. That's 855-963-6476. The National Federation of the Blind encourages you to live the life you want.